Want a place where your child can get excited about learning about God? Children's Ministry at Good Hope is a place where your child will be taught to love God, love all people, and change the world through age-appropriate activities, interactive worship, sports, music, and art. Through our Gospel Project Sunday Worship, weekly Awana Bible Clubs, Upward Sports League, and Summer Vacation Bible School, your child will be ministered to year-round. Remember, your child is a gift from God.
The right place, a place where the joy is indescribable, at the right time, a time when anything is possible. We are a family, and together we are unstoppable, a place of love. We are a light in a dark world. We are hope, believe, belong, and become hope. Our purpose and our goal is to love God, love our people, and change the world. Welcome to our family. We are hope. We are hope.
I'm Dr. D.Z. Cofield, Senior Pastor at the Good Hope Missionary Baptist Church, and I want to welcome you to this edition of Word of Hope Ministries. Today we conclude a message entitled, How to Be Blessed by Your Choices. Everyone makes choices in life. Sometimes we make good choices, sometimes we make bad choices. Do we learn with our choices, or do we simply live with our choices? Well, in our passage today, Joshua challenges us on the power of choosing. The fact that we must make choosing our priority and choosing to serve God our priority. We must make our commitment to God. But what does it take to really bring about the change in our lives that we want to see when we talk about making a choice for God, when we talk about making a greater commitment to God? Well, there are three things that I want you to think about as we go through this message today. Remember, change, and recommit. Remember, change, and recommit. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Remember what the Lord has done. Make a choice to change how you're living now, and then recommit yourself to the Lord to make sure that when you remove those negative things out of your lives, those actions, those attitudes, and those associates, that you replace them with those things that are of the Lord. Let's get to our message. Now, how can we commit ourselves to the Lord? And for those of you who may have known the Lord and you are not serving Him like you should, what do you need to do to recommit yourself to the Lord? Let me share with you several things under 3. Look at A. Remember what the Lord has done in your past. If you're having a problem committing yourself or recommitting yourself to the Lord, if you're having a problem in terms of the kind of choices you need to make, God says, here's what I need you to do. First, remember what I have done. Look at verse 13, Joshua 24. I gave you a land on which you had not labored, and cities that you had not built, and you dwell in them. You eat the fruit of the vineyards and olive orchards that you did not plant. For it is the Lord our God who brought us and our fathers up from the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery, and who did those great signs in our sight, and preserved us in all the way that we went, and among all the peoples through whom we passed. And the Lord drove out before us all the peoples, the Amorites who lived in the land. Therefore, we also serve the Lord, for He is our God.
You know what Joshua does? Joshua challenges the children of Israel to remember. He says, look back and see what God has done. And for somebody under the sound of my voice right now, listen to me carefully. You are so focused on what you want God to do and what you don't believe God is doing that you deserve to be done, that you're ungrateful because you have forgotten what God has already done. He says, man, you got to remember he says, I'm sorry, Israel, you drinking from wells you didn't dig. You're eating fruit from vineyards you didn't plant. And all of this is because of the goodness and grace of God in your life. He says, the Lord has saved you, brought you out of Egypt. He kept you as you wandered in the wilderness. He protected you from the enemies of this world. He gave you victory over the enemies in the promised land. All of the victories that God has given you. He says, count those blessings and remember what the Lord has done. And sometimes we can get so frustrated and discouraged. No, I'm not talking about you. I'm going to talk about me. Sometimes I can get so frustrated and discouraged in what I'm going through that I forget to remember what the Lord has already done and what he's already brought me through. See, somewhere along the line, you can get encouragement even in your difficulties in remembering God has not brought you this far to leave you. Here's the B part. Look at 3B. Change how you're living in the present. You not only want to remember what the Lord has done, but you recommit yourself to the Lord by changing how you're living right now. Verse 14, the B part, Joshua 24, put away the gods that your fathers served beyond the river and in Egypt and serve the Lord. Put away the gods that your fathers served beyond the river and in Egypt and serve the Lord. Now let me just share this with you because I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, as we read this verse, we will typically think of idol gods. And when we think of idol gods, we think typically of poles and items and objects that have been fashioned by the hands of men. But I want to suggest to you today an expansion of this idea beyond totem poles and figurines. I want to focus right now and help you to think about the things from your forefathers that are your priority above loving God. I want to suggest to somebody in here, a painful past can become an idol if you're not careful. For somebody in here, something that was done to you has become so much of a preoccupation for you that you focus on what was done or you focus on the person who did it more than you focus on God. So even though the pain was great, God has kept you and delivered you, has brought about a level of healing in your life, but instead of focusing on God, you are focusing on who and what happened to you. And so in essence, you are still carrying the idols of your forefathers instead of putting them down and focusing on God. Look at verse 19, Joshua 24. But Joshua said to the people, you are not able to serve the Lord, for he is a holy God. He is a jealous God. He will not forgive your transgressions or your sins. If you forsake the Lord and serve foreign gods, then he will turn and do you harm and consume you after having done you good. And the people said to Joshua, no, but we will serve the Lord. Then Joshua said to the people, you are witnesses against yourselves that you have chosen the Lord to serve him. It's as if they said, no, Joshua, we swear we're going to serve the Lord. And Joshua said, okay, you just testified against yourself. So if you don't do it, the only person that's lied is you. Like you lying on yourself if you don't do what you said you are going to do. Joshua says to them basically this: if you don't get rid of your idols, you will eventually forsake the Lord. So get rid of your idols. Get rid of the idol of pain. Get rid of the idol of prosperity. Get rid of anything that will take your focus off of God and his goodness in your life. Let's go to C. Recommit yourself to obeying the Lord in your future. Recommit yourself to obeying the Lord in your future. If it is evil in your eyes to serve the Lord, choose this day whom you will serve, whether the gods your fathers served in the region beyond the river, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. What does God want you to do? He wants you to obey. Verse 24, Joshua 24. And the people said to Joshua, the Lord our God we will serve, and his voice we will obey. 3 times the people affirmed their desire to serve only the Lord, and Joshua took them at their word. They said, we will obey the Lord. Now listen, I want you to think about this. Most of us who have some age on us can look back over our lives and we would probably agree that our lives would have turned out differently if we had done what our parents or grandparents told us to do. Right? If we could have gone back, if we can go back and do what they said, live our lives over, our lives would have been significantly different. And some of us, I think, would probably say better if we had done what other people had told us to do. How much better would your life be right now if you had listened to your mother, your father, your grandmother, your grandfather, or some significant others in your life? How much different would your life have been? Just think in your mind. Now, if you think your life would have been better listening to them and doing what they told you to do, even though you were grown enough to make your own decision and do what you wanted to do, which is why you're where you are right now, how much better would your life have been if you had listened to the Lord and did what God told you to do? All right, let me ask you another question. How will your life be different now if you start listening to the Lord? Like if you start listening to the Lord right now, how much different will your life be from now on? You see, we have a past we can't change. So why keep on lamenting over a past that can't be changed and bringing our past into our present in such a prevalent way that it affects our present and we see no hope for our future? If I want my tomorrow to be different than my yesterday, then I have to stop living out of my yesterday today, because my today will be tomorrow's yesterday. So if I want to change my tomorrow, I've got to change my today. So when my yesterday becomes my today, I will no longer allow my today from my yesterday to become my tomorrow. I've got to make sure that my tomorrow changes by changing my today. So when I get to tomorrow and look back on my yesterday is positive, so my tomorrow can become positive. So watch what Joshua says. as for me. The suggestion is you got to start with yourself. Before you can ask or expect somebody else to get right, can you do what you need to do to get right? Before you can look at somebody else and say, this is what you need to do, because you know we're experts at getting other folks straight. I mean, we can be as crooked as a snake, but we know exactly what somebody else needs to do to get right. Yeah, we are experts on what they need to do to change their lives and get themselves together. It's like, what about you? Oh, you know, I'm working on it. Joshua says, as for me, let me start with me, because I cannot export to anybody what I haven't imported myself. I can't help somebody else live what I haven't applied myself. He says, as for me, and then he goes further, and my house. Because watch this, he understands he has authority over those who are around him. Now, he can't speak for those outside of his house, but he can speak for those who are part of his house. So he says, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. What does that mean? That means we're going to love God. We're going to love him with all of our heart, all of our soul, all of our mind, and all of our strength. Choices come. Every day you have to make choices. The question is, will you make good choices or will you make bad choices? I was talking to a young man earlier this week. He's had some problems because he's made bad decisions in his past. And he was in a situation that seemed avoidable to me. Now, what was amazing was he got into a little ruckus with another young man. Neither one of them wanted any trouble, and neither one of them started anything. But they ended up exchanging words and almost exchanging blows. But both of them had the same story. It wasn't my fault. I didn't start it. I wasn't trying to get in no trouble. I don't want no trouble. I have no beef with them. And so I asked the young man, I said, did you think about your decision? Like the decision that you made, because you had a choice whether you would fall into this or not. And he said, yeah, I didn't do nothing. I didn't do nothing. I said, okay. So we kept on talking, and then he asked me a question. He said, oh, we're going to have a chess club at the school. And I said, a chess club? I said, you play chess? He said, oh, yeah, I play chess. My uncle showed me how to play chess. He said, I play chess. And I said, how many moves ahead can you see? He said, I'm at about 4. I said, so you can see 4 moves ahead. So for those of you who don't play chess, seeing ahead simply means when you make a move, you can see what the next person's move is going to be, then you see what your move is going to be, and then you see what their move is going to be. That's 4 moves ahead, right? So I said, so that means you can see their move after your move, and then you can see your move after their move, and then you can see their move after your move. So you can see 4 moves ahead. He said, yeah. I said, now explain to me how you do that, right? So he started explaining to me from his perspective and mindset how he can see 4 moves ahead. So I'm listening to him, and I said, wow. I said, that's awesome. That's great. I said, now let me ask you a question. Why can't you see 4 moves ahead when you're interacting with other people? He said, well, what do you mean? I said, when that person said what they said, that was their first move. Then you had a choice how you would respond. Second move. Your choice was going to determine their move, which was the third move. And then their move, based on your move, based on their move, would be the 4th move. How you would react to their reaction to your reaction. How did you end up in the principal's office almost coming to blows with the ability to think 4 moves ahead? People end up in jail because they don't think 1 move ahead. Folk had one night of pleasure that resulted in 18 years of payments because they couldn't think 1 move ahead. How is it that you have the ability to think 4 moves ahead on a chessboard, but can't think 3 moves ahead in life? And he just sat there puzzled. I said, so here's what I need you to do. I need you to start thinking 3 and 4 moves ahead in life. We have choices. And where we are right now is the sum total of all the choices that you've made in the past. Every choice you make has consequences. You can be blessed by your choices or you can be burdened by your choices. But the power to choose is in your hands. And Joshua says, choose wisely, choose correctly, choose clearly, choose consistently, but above all else, make sure you choose in a way that honors God.
You know, most of us don't have a problem remembering what the Lord has done. Now, there are times that we go through periods where we have and experience self-imposed amnesia. But it's typically pretty easy. When somebody says, think back and remember what the Lord has done, we can go back and think about how the Lord has blessed us, what the Lord has brought us through. But you know, one of the greatest challenges in our lives is making a change. Many of us are held captive by our habits, our hang-ups, our addictions, and it's hard to change, especially when you've been the way you are for a long period of time. Psychologists tell us the older we are, the harder it is to change. Most people, when they get to a life stage where they just feel like, you know what, all hope is gone, hey, I'm gonna do what I've been doing, and you know what, the consequences are what they are. How many times have you talked to somebody about changing? Or maybe somebody talked to you about changing? For example, changing your diet. Now, I know I'm meddling, right? But somebody said to you, you know what, man, you need to watch what you eat. Why? Because you have hypertension, you have heart disease, you have diabetes, you're on dialysis, whatever it is, you're struggling with a health issue. And what many of us fail to realize is 7 out of the top 10 causes of death in our country are related to what we eat. So somebody says to you, hey man, you need to change how you eat. And what do we say? You know what? I gotta die of something. Might as well die of this, right? Stop smoking. Surgeon General put big warnings on cigarette packs. Smoking can lead to lung cancer. Smoking is dangerous to your health. But what do we say? Gotta die of something. Might as well be this. You have to choose to change your life. You know, there's an old saying, definition of insanity is doing what we've always done, the way we've always done it, and expecting different results. Most of us have the desire to do better, and we have the desire to experience new blessings in our lives, but we don't want to change how we live. Joshua challenges the children of Israel to change. And my brothers and my sisters, you have to make a decision to make the changes in your life you need to make so you can experience all that God has for you. You see, you think you're waiting on God, but the truth of the matter is, God is waiting on you to make the change you need to make so you can receive from the Lord what He has for you.
The Holy Land. Join Dr. D.Z. Cofield and Heavenly Matched Christian Travel, November 27th through December 8th. Pray at the Wailing Wall. Walk the final steps of Jesus to the cross along the Via Dolorosa. Sail on the Sea of Galilee. Get baptized in the Jordan River, and many more historic sites. For more information, call Ron Ward at 713-520-8095. Don't miss this once-in-a-lifetime trip to the Holy Land.
In Joshua 24, Joshua makes a declaration that most of us who are believers are familiar with. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Now, there's so much in that challenge, in that statement. But here's one of the things I don't want you to miss. The decisions that you make will have an effect on your house. It may not affect them directly, but it will affect them indirectly. The decisions that you make, the choices that you make, will affect those, as my late pastor, Dr. A. Lewis Patterson would say, in your concentric circle of contact. In other words, when you make a decision, it doesn't only affect you. It will affect those who are around you, those who are watching you, those who are following your life, following your example. So I want to close today by challenging you to recommit yourself to the Lord. Make that your priority. You used to go to church? Get back into church. You can't go to the church you went to? Find a Bible-believing, Bible-teaching church. You used to pray? Start praying again. You used to spend time in the Word? Spend time in the Word. Do what you need to do to recommit your life so that you can get to where God ultimately wants you to be.
Good Hope would like to invite you to attend our Bible study Wednesday at noon, corporate prayer at 6:30 p.m., and Bible study at 7 p.m. Care is provided in the evening for children ages 3 years old to 5th grade. For more information, call us at 713-524-6578 or visit us online at goodhope.org.
The Barbara Jordan International Preschool provides children from infancy to pre-kindergarten with a superior character-building curriculum, nutritious meals, and a multi-language program. Can you imagine your child speaking Chinese and Spanish at the age of 2? Invest in your child's future. Space is limited. For more information, call 832-217-3300 or go to bjipreschool.org. Barbara Jordan International Preschool, preparing children to change the world.
Dr. D.Z. Cofield explores pain in the raw.
Man, those broken promises can be devastating.
Dr. D.Z. Cofield digs in where others shy away.
I mean, there's people right now who are grown, who still live with the scar of a broken promise of a dad who said, I'm going to come pick you up.
Watch Dr. D.Z. Cofield on the Cube, Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. and Sundays at 6:30 a.m.